You are listening to the Built to Grow podcast, delivering the knowledge in all things fitness business. We help gym owners win. Here are your hosts, Tim Lyons and Randy Exton.
All right, welcome to the Built to Grow podcast. I am your host, Tim Lyons, and I'm here joined in studio today, folks, with my co-host, Randy, the skipper of Successful Mindset.
Skipper. Instantly think of Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's Island.
You have to, is there another
The
iconic
skipper? No, that is the skipper.
Those are the shoes to fill.
Those are big shoes.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, he's
big
an
polos,
icon. So here we
polos.
are, and I was driving in today, and I got a call from my fitness director, Zach. I talk about him on this podcast quite a bit, and we had gone over last week some of the things that we can do differently in the gym. It's just we're constantly trying to improve things, and it really, one of the things that in our conversation came down to is the experience that our clients are experiencing here, right? What is the customer experience like? And I got to thinking, I was like, wow, we talk about it a lot, but what are some of the things that we could do to make the customer experience better? And I think that would be such a great topic to talk about today for gym owners, because let's be honest, guys, the competition's getting tougher and tougher. There's gyms opening up across the street and down the street and around the corner, and everybody's fighting for the same thing. And from the consumer standpoint, it doesn't matter what you do, to the consumer, everybody does the same thing.
Yeah, we touched on a couple episodes ago, we touched on that a little bit. If you're not creating something that makes yourself stand out to the marketplace and making it known that you provide something different, the marketplace is they're just shopping price for the most part,
right,
unless you tell them something different.
So if you think about this, and it's very hard sometimes for gym owners to put themselves in the consumer's shoes, but if they were to look in your gym and see, turf and dumbbells and barbells and a bunch of sweaty people moving around, they kind of think that's a class to them. If you were to say, hey, go over to the big box gym and look in the aerobics room, you got a bunch of sweaty people moving around with some weights, and you go over to CrossFit and there's a bunch of sweaty people moving around with weights. They kind of think everything's the same.
Sure. And
we know it's not the same, and it's not the same as the gym owners out there listening to this podcast, but to the consumer, it kind of is the same thing. So, we talked about, like you were just saying, how do you attract people in by calling something that you offer like a proprietary system or whatever it is, your product. But let's talk about, now that you've got them as a client.
Within your four walls.
You got them signed up, you converted them from, being a prospect now into a perfect, into your client now. What's the experience that they're experiencing from the day they start to, 2, 3, 4 years down the road? And how is that going to be any different so you can protect yourself against competition?
Awesome.
So we're always trying to constantly improve. And I want to give away just some things that you can do in your gym to make yourself and that customer experience better for them. So a couple things, and we can just go off of each other. But number one thing, not the top thing, but the first thing that somebody experiences in your gym is usually a consultation or a first class, or they've walked in for the first time. You can set the experience for what they're going to expect well before they even show up, and you can do that by creating a video. Here's where you're going to park. Here's the door to our gym. And you walk in and walk that person through exactly what they're going to be experiencing, because that lowers the guard down. And so if you think about, from their mindset, again, it's hard to put yourself in their minds, in their shoes, but if they're nervous, they don't know what to expect. But if you just tell them exactly what they're going to be experiencing when they come in and see you, that can go a long way, a long, long way.
Yeah. And like you said, we've touched on the attraction side of things, but I personally think that has to be ingrained in the message, all of your marketing material as well. We've been pushing content a lot lately, as far as not just asking for the sale with the things that we're sharing online and social media especially, but the message and the content and the videos that you're producing should highlight and allow that relationship to begin then, not just when they walk through the door. So like you said, like having those systems that can translate or transition from, okay, you're no longer a prospect, you're not somebody who we're just broadcasting to, now you're part of the team. Let's maintain that level of experience for that client.
Right, exactly. And you know, it's something that's happened, unfortunately, last week in the gym. We had a client that, you know, got diagnosed with bone cancer. And it's a really, really sad time for this family. And, you know, as a team, we jumped into action. We kind of have a protocol on stuff like this. If somebody has a baby or if there's a loss in the family or some bad news like this, we wrote a card out, very sincere. We sent flowers to the house because obviously we have their address, and we sent that like immediately. The very next morning, they got that, and it goes a long way. So that, again, goes into the experience. And it's the things like that is what I'm really, really talking about. I want to focus on this episode, is the things like that have nothing to do with you training a client on overhead presses.
Okay, so it's not just about the results the client got as far as the product that we're all so focused on, if you may, right? Like the training is kind of what everything else is built elaborates from. So it's a great way of looking at your business that's not just the end final small task. It's the experience that goes along with creation.
Absolutely.
That.
Right?
Perfect.
Is your gym clean? I mean, that's one of the most simplest things you can do, unless you're like a hardcore, you know, meathead, you know, dirty gym, and that's what you're running with.
Sure.
Yeah, you probably should have a pretty damn clean place, because I don't remember where I saw it. I don't remember where I heard it, but, you know, they surveyed why people leave gym, like why they cancel gym memberships, and the cleanliness was number one across several of the studies. So, I mean, that's simple. We can keep the place clean.
Sure.
Do you have a janitor service? Does your team clean up? Do you have cleaning protocols in your gym? We do. At the end of every session, we're over there cleaning up. We also have a cleaning service that comes in at, you know, 3 to 4 times a week, and they mop and vacuum and hit those dusty places and stuff. But if you get away from that, you know, you start seeing people fall off. It might be that. You know, unfortunately, a lot of times clients will leave the gym and they won't ever tell you why. But those surveys went after those people, say cleanliness is number one. So your gym's clean. Again, that goes into the experience. You know, a welcome video when somebody signs up, a welcome package when somebody signs up, you know, the front desk smiling and standing and having energy and being, you know. So those are all go into the experience. And the reason why I think that's important is because, again, the competition, you've got the client. Keep the client happy, right?
Absolutely.
And yes, you got to get them results, and yes, you got to have great workouts, but that's the minimum expectation now. You've got to have that.
Yeah, if you look at just the perception of what they're doing and what they're shopping at, right? If it's just training for this dollar amount, if we leave everything at that, they're going to buy the cheapest one available. But you provide all of that on top of exceptional training. Now you have a client that they can't walk into your competition and actually receive the same thing, because you've undersold and over-delivered. And we use that term a lot with our personal stuff, and the way that we attack our own tasks is, here's the goal, here's what we need to do. This is the minimum. This isn't and that's the way a lot of people look at work in general, I think, is this is the task. This is all I need to do in order to accomplish that task.
Yeah.
When that's the baseline, right? If you go a little bit above and beyond, you're now taking somebody who is happy at this level, but now you've won them to a point where they're way beyond. They're bought in on top of just happy to be receiving the result.
Right. So going back to the training again, I mean, the experience that they have with you and your team needs to be the same or similar across all coaches. Now, here's a great, right straight out of the E-Myth book, right? E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Okay. He has a great story in there. If you guys haven't read that book, go pick that up. I think that was on one of our blogs. You might check it out on pfmarketingsolutions.com/blog. And the story goes like this, and I'm going to hack the heck out of this story, but it's really, really simple. The author of the book was new in town, looking for a barber to get his hair cut at. Okay, everybody needs to get their hair cut, didn't know who he was going to. Goes into the barber shop. The front desk girl's there, greets him by name because he had an appointment. He sits down. She offers him a drink, I guess water, coffee, whatever it was. He accepts it. He gets the drink. The barber's finishing up the haircut before him. The barber gets done. The front desk girl walks him back, sits him down, introduces him, sits down. The barber introduces himself. He says, "Hey, we're going to cut your hair today." Great. So he cuts his hair. He doesn't wet the hair or anything. He cuts it dry. He says this is a great way to cut hair. He cuts the hair dry. The gentleman stands up. Great haircut. Looks good, right? Simple haircut. Walks to the front desk, and then the front desk lady, asks him if he wants to book in 30 days out. He said, "Absolutely. It's a great haircut. I'm going to come on back." So he books out 30 days, and then he leaves. Comes back 30 days later, sits down. There's no front desk girl. She's in the back. She yells to him, "Hey, grab yourself a drink." He's like, "Cool, I'll grab a drink here." Grabs a coffee, sits down. She comes up to the front, meets him up there, walks him back. The barber then sits down, wets his hair with a spray bottle, knocks out a great haircut. He stands up, "Man, that's a great haircut." Again, experience was a little different. He's like, "Cool, well, I guess this is all right." He walks back and walks to the front. The front desk girl says, "Hey, you want to book into another appointment 30 days out?" And he's like, "Sure, why not? I'll give it a shot, Comes back 30 days later. I guess this is during the holidays at this time. It's super packed. The front desk girl is up there. Can't get to him. He sits himself down, doesn't get a drink. The barber calls him back. She's still busy. He's like, "Well, I guess, they're pretty busy, so no problem. It's the holidays." Everybody gets their haircut for those holiday parties, right?
Oh, yeah.
Walks himself back, gets a haircut. Now this time it's dry again, and he sits down. It's a great haircut, and the barber walks him up to the front, asks him if he wants to book in again. And he says in the book, he goes, "I'll never go back to that place," and it had nothing to do with the haircut.
Interesting.
Because his experience was completely different every single time. Nothing to do with the haircut, but people like to know what they're going to expect.
Mm-hmm.
They like routine, and when you start breaking up routine and every time it's different, he cut it dry one time, he cut it wet another time. One time he got a drink offered, one time the girl wasn't there, and he never knew what to expect, and he never went back. And that story for gym owners is a real, again, that's the basis of the story.
Sure.
I don't want you to say, "Hey, Tim, well, actually, the book's he got a beer in the book," and it was like, "Yeah, I don't remember the story, but that's the point of the story." And we get to thinking about, wow, you know what? The front desk girl's maybe sick that week, and the customers experience one thing one week, and then maybe they're training with trainer A today, and next week they're training with trainer B, and the experience is different across the board. Maybe they're both great workouts, but the unfortunate thing is the experience is different, and that's where people start looking around. They want to know what to expect.
Yeah, I wonder, we talk a lot about the emotional versus like the logical, right? Emotions is typically what leads us into something, makes us feel good, obviously, or not feel good, which sometimes leaves us more easier, steered one direction based on a negative emotion that we felt.
Right.
Versus the logic, right? Like the haircut is almost like the logical response in that situation. It's the result. Mm-hmm. It's right or wrong. It's yes or no. It's pass or fail type of thing.
Yep.
But the experience and the whole accumulation of everything that went into that is really where his whole decision is going to be based upon.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and it's not something as simple as a haircut. So, personal training is personal. Very. Right. So there's such an emotional response around it, and the individuals. I mean, this is a family. Between podcasts and stuff, I walk around and I know plenty of your members.
Right.
I've known them for years, and I could tell you that if it was just about results, and they were only worrying about that, I wouldn't have the relationships with these people, and they wouldn't know your staff and each other and things like that.
Yeah. And that's the way you're going to set yourself apart. And then in the future, against competition, is having that community, that experience in your gym. So a couple other things that I feel like we do a really, really good job, and we've never missed one from being open the first 3 months. We had a holiday party. It was our first annual. This year will be our 11th annual holiday party, which is crazy to think. And they get better and bigger and crazier every year.
Yeah.
And this last year, we went off the rails because it was our 10th one, whatever. We actually, every single time we usually do them off-site. This time I was like, you know what? We were making some big changes in the gym, and I wanted everybody in the gym at one time so I can do a presentation and then kind of do dinner and stuff. So we had it catered. Had actually brought in casino tables. It was like 4 blackjack tables, craps, roulette, and people went crazy for it.
Big game night. It was great.
Big game night. We had huge prizes. We went and spent about $10,000 on this thing, and it was right when it ended, Well, I'll put it to you this way: the thing was supposed to get done at 10, and I've got like 8 dealers, and they're like, "Okay, Tim, it's 10." And I look around, and every table's packed. I'm like, "Crap, I'm gonna have to throw down some more money to keep these guys around." So, I just extended it another hour. He went around. The pit boss went around to all the dealers. They were having a great time, so we just stayed with it for another hour. And then even at 11 o'clock. He's like, "Hey, we gotta shut this down." I was like, fine. Okay, we gotta shut it down because the dealers had to get home, But the clients were like, "When's the next one?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm still recovering from that one." So we've kind of like, now we can't go any less than that. But our clients are here. Hundreds of clients are here every single holiday party. We have a blast. Everybody dresses up in suits, tuxedos. And that's not something that you're going to find down at the big box gym down the street. They're not doing that kind of stuff. I know a very, very few. I know a guy out in, where's he out of? He owns a Gold's Gym. He just opened up a second one. Anyways, I think it's in Baltimore, Maryland, or somewhere up there. He does a holiday party like that, and he's got 10,000 members, 15,000 members, and they have like 3,000 people there. It's crazy. I can't imagine what that bill looks like.
Sure.
But he does it. But very, very few big box gyms are going to be doing that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that has nothing to do with training and injury prevention and, posterior chain activation and ankle dorsiflexion. All this stuff, is in our heads like, we got to train these clients. They want to belong. They want to enjoy where they're at. And, we always talk about the third place being the community, home, work, gym. Be that third place so your clients have a place that they know, people know who they are, they enjoy coming to, and they'll never leave you.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many relationships established, friendships. It should be a place that you can go, not just for that 1 hour result, but there's more to be gained from that, that area. And it pours over too, because even from the staff, your staff, based on those types of things, are more engaged, are more bought in, if you may. They develop a deeper connection with a lot of the individuals that are coming in and training with them. It's not just this cold turn and burn. Here's an hour, in and out. It's the opposite of that, and that all of that conspired together creates that experience, and it's profound, and that is absolutely one of the things that separates this facility from. And I train a ton of facilities,
for sure.
And it's definitely from a personal training standpoint, especially. It completely takes it to another level.
Yep. And there's something that we could always be better, and this is something that we talk about a lot. Like in our STS, one of the big things that a lot of the gym owners that are in the STS are doing is actually going out to the Barry's Boot Camp and the Orange Theories and the Burn Boot Camp, whatever those the Burn Boot Camps, and they go as a trial client and see what the experience is.
I was actually going to ask you, one of the things or my question for you is, as the owner, when it comes time to looking at your own business and finding those areas that could use an improvement, do you shop your own business? How do you go about, or is it just top down looking at where you see successes and failures and things happening?
Well, yeah, I think going out and shopping competition is a great way to do it, but not just competition. Maybe you don't have an Orange Theory in your market, but you would go, which would be surprising. But you would go and find an Orange Theory and see, what are these guys doing? What's the front desk look like? What is the person answering the phone? When they get there, do they know who you are? And all these cool things. One of our buddies, John Farkas, Blue Ocean Fitness in Missouri, St. Louis area, he went on a tour, and he flew out to LA, and he actually went to like Barry's Boot Camp and a bunch of chains that are up and coming chains or established chains. And he said one of the ones that blew him away was Barry's Boot Camp. It actually, he had signed up online, and when he came in, his name was on the board. They were expecting him, and they brought him in, and it was like a big thing. And then he had calls and follow-ups, and it was like this whole process. Casey and Jerry out of Fit and 42, they do the same thing. Frank Nash in Boston area, he did the same thing. So it's kind of not a bad idea to send their coaches to.
Frank's a great point, or great person to mention when it comes to that client experience, because a lot of the things that Frank's worked on recently, obviously with the things that he's going through now,
the branding,
even the experience of walking in his facility is entirely different than it was a year ago. The lighting, the color.
Totally different.
I mean, if you know Frank Nash and Stronger out of Boston, you walk into his facility and I don't remember what color it is now. Pink
it changes.
Or green. Yeah,
it changes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The whole atmosphere of the entire facility changes
Changes
at
colors.
the flip of a switch. And it sets a different experience for those people walking in. If you take just that element alone, have that same facility now turn regular lights on and go put the people through the same experience, people are leaving his experience the way it is now talking about all of that, as opposed to, man, that was a great training session. I can't wait to be back tomorrow.
Right. They're talking about everything other than the training session. They might talk about the training session, but
there's something to be said about that too. Fitness is an area where, for us that are deep and love it, we love it, right? We show up every day because this is what we do. We love it.
Gains.
But he gains, exactly. Yeah. But a lot of society knows it's something that they need to do. Knows it's, but exactly. There's a perception around the fact that this is a burden. This is a chore every day, and so the more, I don't want to say distract them, but the more that you can give them a sense of community, the more you can take the stress off of the fact of it's an hour of rigorous work that's going to lead to a result, and make that experience something that they can think about and focus on and actually relate all their emotions to, as opposed to the work that's being involved. You're changing the perception of that entire training session.
Yeah, you can make such a difference. Yeah, so exactly, like Frank, great example. And there's some other clients that we talk to and work with and friends in the industry are making some big changes right now. And if you haven't done a change in your gym, like for us, we moved over to the new space. That was a totally different experience than they were in a third of the size. So that was our change, and we built it the way we wanted the flow of the clients and stuff. But if if you're kind of stuck in your spot, you can do something like Frank's done and bring some lighting in and change your logos and stuff, and bring some the changing colors if that's what you want to go with. And he totally I think he polished and sealed his concrete floors, so there's like huge reflections now.
High gloss, sure.
High gloss stuff. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. Again, we're not talking about posterior chain activation and interval training. We're talking about everything else. And then we talked in the last podcast episode about sense, like to your nose, right? The scent in the air and what that can do to the experience. There's a reason why real estate agents throw in chocolate chip cookies on open house day, so that aroma of chocolate chip cookies is in the house. It feels like home.
Yeah, sure.
So what is that to the gym? I don't know what that scent is, but you can make it whatever you want. It's not going to be chocolate. It could be chocolate chip cookies.
I don't know,
man.
Almond butter and
protein
powder.
Yeah, as long as it's not sweaty gym clothes, I think you're in good shape, right?
Yeah. Oh.
So the experience, right? So do that. Shop your competition. One thing that we do here, in fact, Zach just told me before this podcast, is he called the front desk to shop the gym. And with the new front desk girl, it was mostly out of a training, but he heard what the client hears, and he's working on changing some things in that conversation. So you can do that. I don't think you can go and get yourself trained. I mean, maybe you would train in your facility and see what the clients are, how they're experiencing the workout.
I work with our private training clients on this a lot, about being a product of their product. Yep. And so not only do you experience your own training and what it's like, I think we should all push for either secret shopping, whether it's a family member we can bring in to kind of go through that process, or because a lot of it is it's the client facing things, but it's not always the 4 things that you see happening in your facility. Sometimes, it's the engagement that happens on a Facebook post, or
true.
That phone call or that initial consultation, and having somebody that can go through that experience as authentic as possible. Like it's one thing if you were to sit in front of your team and have them conduct those things. Of course, they're going to try and dot every I and cross every T and do.
Yeah, if it was you, right?
But if you bring in a stranger, that's where the real information comes from. Yeah. And so, see if you can shop. And it doesn't have to be something like you don't have to go pay for a service to do it, but bring in a friend or a family or somebody that your staff doesn't know is there for that purpose. Yeah. So you get real accurate information from your team.
Right. And that's the experience through the day-to-day nuts and bolts of what you're going to, like the consultation and the movement screen, if you do that, and how the sign-up process is and the actual workouts. But then all those other things too is really what I want to focus on. So couple things, and we talk about this in the GPS quite a bit. All these things like the happy hours and wine mixers, the mud runs, the anniversary cards that you can do, the birthday cards, the presents and things.
Internal challenges.
Internal programs. Yep. There's so many things. And we always think our clients want results, which on the surface makes a lot of sense, but not every client cares about results like we think that they care about results.
Yeah, I use the term, we're too close to the problem all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And when it comes to staffing, even, I mean, it's so ingrained in a lot of the conversations that we have. But making sure that us in our facility, that we're not solely focused on just there's a big difference between making our clients happier and delivering better results, and they're not always the same problem. Exactly.
Yep.
And so you can increase their desire to be here, and essentially it's going to help their results in the back end. But it's not done from, continued education necessarily, or it's done in a way that's off training, but yet helps deliver a better experience and thus deliver more results over time.
Yeah, exactly. And, results for some clients is just so they work out so that they can go drink wine.
Absolutely.
That's what some of them is. And some they just want to belong. That's another thing that is the reason they come to a gym. And from the trainer brain, it's like, man, that client's just not getting results, but they never leave. What's going on with this person? Because they like everything else.
Yeah.
And they're not so concerned about results like we want them to be. So it's different for everybody, and you got to know your clients.
Absolutely.
So, and you just got to have that experience, that place that they want to be at, and they would never leave. So, I mean, there's a reason why there's still clients here today that signed up on our grand opening in 2009. There's still clients today. They signed up on that day. It's amazing, right? And if, the experience wasn't what it is, they would have been long gone.
Sure,
right?
easily.
So that's the challenge I kind of place to the gym owners is look at your experience, do the secret shopping, or maybe shop your own product, go into the local market and check out your competition and see what they're doing and see what the experience is that they're getting at your competition, and bring that back and improve upon it.
That's real quickly there, guys. When your competition's doing something and you like the idea, don't copy it, emulate it. There's a huge difference between going and seeing something done and saying, okay, cool, I'm bringing that into my facility and doing it one for one.
Sure.
Versus understanding the idea and what it's doing for their clients and going and emulating and mimicking.
Yep.
Remember at the end of the day, you got to be authentic and you got to be real to who you are. And your competition deserves to be allowed to do that too.
Yep.
And if you're going to them to get inspiration or get an idea and do that, and you come back with that, the idea here is to be something different than them.
Yeah, make it your own.
So make it your own. And,
Sure.
and I can't stress that enough, because we see it with marketing. We see it with, like legitimately things that end up on the walls in your gyms. They emulate and, just don't copy item for item. I mean, we've seen people so closed-minded that they think the font on something matters to to their clients. It has to be in a direct replica of somebody else's. And so be unique, but at the end of the day, look for forms of inspiration in other places.
Yep. We can all get better, and that's really the challenge I push out to everybody. And if you're interested in learning more about the systems that we're running here in our gym and how we coach our coaching clients, go over to, I put a training together on winninggym.com. It's a little 30-minute presentation, a little 30-minute training that you can go in and grab some, just kind of understand the 4 systems that go into this whole gym thing that we're doing here. It's just like this morphing thing. It's not the easiest business to be in. If you want to be in an easy business, maybe
seashells or flowers. That's what we always talk about.
Sell flowers on the corner. The gym business is not easy, but we've made it easy by creating systems, and predictable outcomes come from systems. Go check out winninggym.com. Until next time, guys, keep changing lives, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.